try to connect it to their lives in terms of whether or not they may be concerned with issues of racism or paralysis or love or whatever the theme happens to be. I do try to make it connect for the students and capture their attention through making them reflect on their personal connection to a theme.
For me, there are several things that enable me to stay focused during class. Firstly, my mental discipline, and secondly, the interest that I have for the topic or the subject matter. I do find it difficult to focus, however, if class is right after lunch or when the subject matter bores me, when something new or interesting unrelated to the subject comes up, or when my mind is too focused on something that had happened earlier or a personal issue per se. But I do think that being focused enables me to maintain the certain grade that I do have, and also being focused does help me to learn adequately and properly.
I really enjoy literature and I love literary discussion, and I do know that I have an enthusiasm for that that rubs off on some of the students. I say that partly because of student evaluations that have taken place recently. There is a pattern that acknowledges that one of the things that happens or that I do well is I bring enthusiasm to my subject that gets that they enjoy, students enjoy.
We can, no, we no. We can, okay, I got it. She's childish in the sense that all of her poems are, yeah, no. Her
I'm slightly laughing about those. I'm not saying it's repetitive.
Well, we can say that you can just like interpret them in different ways.
The same theme,
Yeah.
which is contained in your phone.
Like two different kind of group conversations. Can we jam this together?
I think the main point of airport.
Wait, there's a new Skype?
Yeah.
Are you recording
You can like 9-way.
Yeah, can you just...
Can you video? Can you video?
Identify literary features in the poems. So if you're just making a comment, but you don't back it up with specifics, and you don't identify literary features, you're not going to get a point. Specific reference. You need specific reference to the poem. Identifying a literary feature.
poetry more appreciated by the masses if it is independent from the author? Yes, it is. Sylvia Plath is in fact self-indulgent when she does produce her.
I think that's the reason why she's a great poet, because from her past experiences, she's in, like, when you read one of her poems, you're like, oh, it's just about someone passing away, or, you know, like, makes it more joyful to read.
Many, but she has a that manic, yeah, something like that. And because of this, it's hard to empathize with her. So it's harder for the audience or the readers to understand. And wow. What was my point?
Sit down.
I have a sentence running around my head. I just lost it.
I think that the teacher's teaching methods are helpful in the sense that the teacher requires us to be independent learners while helping us along the way. But he usually lectures us and teaches us in the same way that other English teachers do. You know, where we discuss in groups or discuss as a class, or write in our journals, or write down like our thoughts and whatnot in a journal. And it becomes very generic, this teaching style. I think that what our teacher needs to do is to change this and make things more creative, where we can learn kinesthetically through maybe role plays and other activities that make learning or analyzing the text fun and easier for us to understand.
Creativity is fundamentally important, that the students be able to develop their own questions and answer, and through that tease answers out. For me, that's an important part of critical thinking and becoming an independent learner. And so that's creativity if they're coming up with their own questions. If you mean creativity in terms of like the development of a poster or something like that, you know, that helps, but it's not the end-all be-all. I think the teacher is enthusiastic about their subject and takes it seriously and is able to convey that to the students is more important than just out-and-out creativity.
My hypothesis was only partially right because creativity did play a role in keeping attention spans, but it only played a role for some of the students. Through the interviews with Mr. Butcher, I have learned that although he does encourage creativity, he believes that in order to gain the students' attention, you must do two things. One, make the topics and lessons so that the students can personally relate to them, and two, be enthusiastic when teaching the topic. In the interview with Julia, we can tell that she does agree that personal connections within a topic does help her keep focus in class. However, in Bianca's interview, we can tell that she needs the creativity aspect to keep focus in class. Overall, the class as a whole does seem to keep a strong focus within the class. My hypothesis is partially right because creativity holds attention spans for only some of the students in the class, not all of them. Alternate factors to keep the students' attention spans could be personal connections between students and topics, enthusiasm from the teacher, and if the student takes a general interest in the subject. Some limitations for collecting data for this research were that I was not able to interview a wide range of people because of the time constraint, the video camera was not accessible for all observation days, and because of the oral presentations happening almost every class period, it was hard to integrate myself into the class discussions and activities. Some improvements for this research could be to extend the time period which is spent with the study group, to possibly have a sign-up sheet for when people need the cameras, and also to ask the teacher to look at the lesson plans. Overall, despite the limitations, I enjoyed doing my research, and even though my hypothesis was not fully accurate, I was still able to find out my answer to my research question, and that's an achievement within itself.